welcome to episode 26 of the Mingled Yarncast. I'm your host, Steven, also known as KnitFen on Instagram and Ravelry, and I'm coming to you live from my classroom. It's been a while since I've done a classroom video, but as it happens, I had some time after school today, and I needed to stick around the city for a while, so I figured, why not do this here and, give you a little glimpse of the color and chaos that I live with most of my time when I'm not knitting. So here we are. Anyway, it's good to see you. It's good to be back. I've been away for quite some time, a lot longer than I anticipated. In the last episode, I mentioned it was just before Christmas, and I was going to be traveling for the holidays and had some things I was finishing up. And I had thought that maybe I would do an episode while I was traveling, but that just kind of proved to be a little foolish and maybe naive. I forgot when I am home in Cincinnati and the surrounding area to see my family. It's just, there's so much visiting to do. There's so much time spent with loved ones, and that's great. It just meant that I didn't have time to sit and make a video. And then I came back. I've been back here since the first of the year. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year. Today is January 23rd, and it's the first video I'm making in 2025. So, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope it's off to a great start for you. It started off well for me. However, then about a week into it, I got very, very sick here in the New York City area. There's been a bug going around. Maybe it is by you too, wherever you happen to be. But I had I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I had a fever of 103, which is the highest, I think, since childhood. So that would mean like the highest temperature I've had this century. It only lasted for a day at that high level, thankfully. But I was sick for several days. It was mostly the days following. My temperature was around 100 most of the time. So not too bad, but definitely not well. And it took some time to get over that. It started off with that, head cold turned into a chest cold. And anyway, all that is to say that even though I did miss a few days of work, I wasn't well enough to sit and make a video, nor would you have wanted to spend 30 minutes of your time looking at me looking sick. And, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. But I feel well now. A little bit of just a seasonal, sniffle left, but I'll take it compared to what I had before. Anyhow, let's see. I've got so many things to share with you. I'm a little overwhelmed in preparing for this episode because there's a lot to say. And I want to tell you, first of all, about my holiday adventures because it does involve some knitting and some stops for some yarn there. I want to tell you about coming back and finishing my second pattern design. More on that in just a moment. And then I want to tell you about Vogue Knitting Live, and that was this past weekend. There was a lot of fun had there, and I learned a lot, was inspired a lot. And then I want to tell you about an upcoming travel adventure that has some knitting connected to it. So like I said, there is a lot to tell you. I'm going to start, though, a little bit out of order there, just because I want to get this out of the way. I'm so excited to share this with you. So remember in the previous episode, if you watched it, I completed the first scarf design that I wrote with using Windy Valley Muskox's yarn. It was the Majestic Blend. And that was I'm not going to tell you the name of it yet. I'm still keeping that a secret for reasons you will understand later. But I've written that pattern up. It's not available on Ravelry yet, again, for reasons to be revealed later. But the second pattern is available on Ravelry. And even though I'm going to tell you a lot more about this in the following episode, probably this weekend, I want to share it with you right now because, you might want to go check it out yourself. Maybe this is the next item in your queue. So this is, let me see if I can get it on here just right so you can see it properly. This is my SeaChange Scarf. Ooh, that kind of looks very nice at that angle, doesn't it? Yeah, so it's the SeaChange Scarf, and I'm calling this, well, never mind. I'm not telling you why I'm going to call it that because I'm going to make a whole episode about it. Just this scarf and the other scarf alone because I have so much to say. Um, this one is the first pattern that I've published, and it is live on Ravelry now. You can check it out. I of course put a link for you. Um, uh, People are already purchasing it, which is incredibly humbling to me. The fact that anybody would, I'm very grateful, and I thank you immensely. I hope that you'll enjoy it, those of you who've already bought it. But yeah, it's made with a single skein of Windy Valley muskox yarn, and you could use other lace weight yarns. You could use fingering weight yarns, I think. Anything bigger than that probably will start to get a little, I don't know, the laciness of it won't be quite as nice at a certain weight. But in any case, it's called the SeaChange Scarf. And if you like it and you're really curious to know more, then follow up with the next episode. But in the meantime, if you want to know more, you can check it out on Ravelry. It's there for purchase, or you can just check out the pictures that I've posted of it. It is there to be seen, and I am incredibly excited. And like I said, I've got a lot to say about this. The meaning behind it, the inspiration I've derived just from the yarns themselves, the fun of it. This has been just such a delight to write this pattern and release it and share it with you. So anyway, that's that. SeaChange, a transformation, as we celebrate all the transformations in our lives. All right, let's set this one aside now, and I'm going to go back chronologically to holiday travels. That's where I was going with this. So it was a busy time, as I'm sure it was for you too. The holidays do tend to be. I went first to visit my father, who lives, in northern Ohio. He's by Lake Erie, in a town called Marblehead, next to a slightly larger town called Port Clinton, next to, or nearby, to a larger city called Toledo, which many of you have probably heard of if you have not heard of Port Clinton or Marblehead. And anyway, it's a very, very beautiful area. The lake is gorgeous at all times of year. And I'm generally there in the summer, but this summer, for whatever reasons, I wasn't able to go and spend a week with my dad like I normally would. So I went there for a few days. I think it was 3 or 4 days that I was there before Christmas. And then he and I drove down to Cincinnati to join the rest of the family, because most of the family is in the Cincinnati and Columbus areas. But where we do our celebrating is mostly in the Cincinnati area. So that's where we went. But while I was up in his neck of the woods, in Marblehead, there is one of my favorite shops that I've mentioned on this show before. It's called Christie's Just For You. And I've got some pictures this time around. I don't think I've done that in the past. But Christie's Just For You. It's it's more than just a shop. It's a campus of shops and buildings. Christy and her husband, they have like a unique kind of gift shop. Like I said, this is an area where a lot of people vacation. So they do have some touristy, trinkety type things, but also some really beautiful pieces of clothing, artwork, etc. in their shop as well. And fudge and delicious treats that you can get. She then has, next to that shop, there's a small barn with some sheep and some goats. And then next to that, there is her yarn store. And next to that, there's her workshop. All of these are sort of little cabins. And like I said, it's a campus, or a compound, perhaps is the better word for it. And so she has a beautiful, beautiful yarn store. It's how do I want to describe it? It's unique. All yarn shops are beautiful, it's true, when you fill a space with enough beautiful skeins of yarn and all of the potential that they carry for future projects and future joy for people. Obviously, these are always going to be happy places. But in my experience, most yarn shops are very bright. Usually it's sort of like white walls, lots of bright light to, display the colors against. And so everything's well lit and, designed to sort of be seen in an organized manner, Not so at Christie's. Christie's is well lit and beautiful and all of those things, but she has yarns in baskets and hanging from the ceiling and just everywhere. Every possible surface in that shop has yarn on it, and it's dark by comparison because maybe the walls are white behind all that yarn, but there's so much yarn that you can't see them. There's so much yarn, and it's a bit of a maze walking through it. It's not a huge shop, but it has the feeling of being immense, like you've walked into this, like a dragon's hoard. If there was a dragon out there who hoarded yarn, the way, like Smaug in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings hoards gold and treasure, it's like that. It's like Aladdin's cave of yarn. If that doesn't entice you, I don't know what will. So anyway, Christie's worked there or run the place for a very long time, and I always stop by when I am there visiting my dad. This time around, I purchased a few different skeins. One of them I've already kind of used up, but I've got this Cascade Yarns Heritage Print sock yarn. It's going to be bright and fun and lovely. Opposite of that, I have this very dark and brooding black yarn. This is a Malabrigo Ultimate Sock Yarn. And this one, to go along with it in some way, this is a Seis Cabos. It's also Malabrigo. The colorway is Molino. I don't know what I'm going to do to make these work together. But there's going to be something happening here. This is going to be a festive little sock, and something separate with this one, but these are going to be a lot of fun. And I also walked out of that shop with this. Now, this used to be a much larger skein or ball of Noro yarn. And this was a lot of fun to play with. As you can see, it's already pretty depleted because I've made 2 hats with it already. And those 2 hats were made for gifts, and those gifts are in the mail currently, so I don't have them here to show you other than in pictures, which I will post here. Anyway, yeah, so I've had some Noro that I purchased in Japan back in 2023, but I haven't really done anything with it yet. I was treating it as, being a bit precious. But this time around, I had this as we were on the road to Cincinnati, and when I was actually, come back here, SeaChange. Maybe I'll just leave SeaChange on. Why not? So while I was first playing around with this, I had a whole different idea for a main stitch pattern for the scarf that I was trying out in the car. And it didn't work at all. It was like, nope, this yarn said, this is not what we were meant to be. You will frog us now, and you will start over at another time. So I said, yes, of course I will. Thank you for telling me what to do. It's very helpful when the yarn tells you what it wants, because sometimes you can just, be lost in your thoughts and your ideas, and it's good to have a little direction. So listen to your yarn, people. So I put this aside. And I just grabbed the Noro out of the bag because it was there. And I thought, well, I've got the needles. I've got 4 hours in a car looking at the beautiful Ohio countryside. Let's make a hat. So I did. I made one. And then once I finished it, I thought, well, heck, I'll make 2. That was so quick and so easy and so fun and so mindless. And like I said, there was so much time spent visiting with family. But a lot of that time was spent sitting on the couch talking or watching Christmas movies, so I could sit there and make it a simple hat. It was, just in the round and repetitive and perfect. It was perfect. So anyway, these are in the mail to someone. More on that later. It's a surprise for them, so I don't want to say too much about it. But my first Noro experience, even though, like I said, I've had a small skein, smaller than this, in my stash for about 1.5 years now. Anyway, it was a great yarn to work with. By the way, after blocking it, you can see how irregular it is. After blocking it, it bloomed and set so perfectly, and the fabric that it made was really, really nice. Like, I wouldn't say that this feels rough by any stretch, but it's also not smooth. But after blocking it, it feels incredibly smooth and warm. And anyway, I will share more about that when the recipient of the gift receives it. Okay. So that's Christie's Just For You. No, that's not Christie's Just For You. There's more to say about it because I only told you about her yarn shop. She has then in that building next to the shop, there is her workshop. And in her workshop, if you are lucky enough to be invited in, and you should ask to see it if you are there, she has, I don't know how many looms of different shapes and sizes. She is a weaver as well as a knitter and crocheter, and she does all of the fiber arts. But she also leads workshops, and you can pay to go have a series of workshops with her. I was kind of thinking of, I don't know, organizing a trip with just a couple of friends and setting up some classes with her to learn how to weave on her triangular looms and her big regular loom. I don't even know the name for looms, I'm ashamed to say. I'm sure there's something, more official than her triangular one and her big one. But I don't know what it is. Anyhow, I would really like to do that. And every time I see her, I say that I'm going to the next time. So I think this next time, whatever that is, maybe this summer, I really do need to set up some time to go do that because it's time. Okay, so is that all of Christmas? I'm looking around at the other stuff that I want to share with you here. I had some really pretty gifts to share, but I didn't bring them with me to school today, so that will be shared with you in a future episode, maybe Sunday or this weekend. Okay, so maybe that brings me then to Vogue Knitting Live. So that was this past weekend, Vogue Knitting Live here in New York City in Times Square at the Marriott Marquis. I think it's the Marriott Marquis. Marriott Hotel in Times Square, 45th Street or so. If you've never been, you should consider coming in the future. It's such a fun event. So there are probably 150 classes, and I'm being conservative. There's at least that many. There might be twice that many. Hundreds of classes, dozens of classes that you can take with some of the best instructors in the world come. And there are, I think, 30 or 40 different instructors. And so you can go online, look at their website, see what you would like to learn or who you would like to take a class from, and sign up for as many of those as you can do. There are 2 floors of the conference space that are set up as a market, and there are, I would say, I don't know, well, at least 100 vendors, maybe more, I'm not sure. There are fashion shows, there are yarn tosses, there's a whole space where those things happen, and there are live interviews with different designers who you've heard of, and plenty of space to just kind of mill about, sit around, eat, drink, be merry, knit, spend time with friends, meet new friends, tap on the shoulder that person who you followed online forever and never saw in person because there they are. There's just so many people there from all over the world, and it's a really, really great time. I've only actually gone to it twice, and last year was very brief. I didn't even post about it in a video, I don't think, because I only went the Friday night and just long enough to walk around the marketplace a little bit because I was flying to Ohio that weekend for my mom's surprise 70th birthday. So, that was my first experience of Vogue Knitting Live. So this year's my second and much fuller because I spent 3 days there, 3 of the 4, and I took 2 classes. The first class was with Mary Jane Mucklestone, she was the designer who designed the Fall River vest. Words are escaping me now. I guess it's late in the day. My brain isn't working quite as it should. Yes. Mary Jane Mucklestone, the Fall River vest, which I decided, of course, I had to wear to the class so that she could see it and I could show it off. Her class was contemporary stranded colorwork, so she is an expert in Fair Isle, and she's published one of the most well-known compendiums or collections of Fair Isle motifs, and so she's well versed in traditional color work, and she's not afraid to play around with going against the grain with some of the motifs, or just thinking more about colors that maybe don't blend together as well, but still have something to say, and giving you projects and designs that can showcase that. So in the class, we worked on her piece that was called the Flying Geese Cowl, which you can buy on Ravelry. I will post it for you here. Actually, I realized something. I've just gotten ahead of myself, but I'll circle back. So the Flying Geese Cowl, in her pattern description, it calls for yarn from Harrisville Designs in their Highland line. And wouldn't you know it, I had a ton of that on hand because this is what I forgot to tell you. Ta-da! My second 1999 pullover by Jen Geigley, which obviously you have seen me wearing this entire episode so far. But here it is, and it's finished, and I love it. And I didn't bring my first one, but if you recall the green one, the colors go in a 4-pattern repeat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this one, it's not so easy to see the pattern, even though there is one. I'm not even going to tell you all about it because I just want your eyes visually to go where these colors take you. I've gotten so many compliments on this when I've worn it. People saying, there's just something striking about this. And yeah, there is. I have to say, I'm very proud of it. And anyway, both of the 1999 pullovers that I made, though, were made with Harrisville Designs yarn. And so I had quite a bit left over. Did I say everything I want to say about this? I don't know if I have. But then again, maybe it speaks for itself. Maybe there's not so much to say. I don't know. I'll come back to it if I feel the need. So I took the leftover yarns to the class, and let's see. One of the main things that I took away, one of the things I learned, so obviously I had made one of her more traditional looking pieces in the Fall River vest, so I'm familiar enough with the techniques of Fair Isle, which is not to say that I'm a master or expert of them, but familiar enough. But one thing that I didn't know or do was to keep, you work it with, well, one way of doing it is to work with yarns in both fingers. And in traditional Fair Isle, you're not working with more than 2 colors at once, so it's easy to switch them back and forth. And that's what I do. Some people, keep both strands in their left or both in their right. I've tried those methods, and I couldn't get them to work. So for me, I guess I like being ambidextrous a little bit. I also feel like I'm a spider. I know that's weird. But did you ever watch a spider up close when it's like working its web, and it's the silk is coming out and it's directing it with its feet? That's what it feels like when I have my fingers with 2 strands of yarn and the needles, and I'm doing stranded color work in Fair Isle. That's what goes through my head. Anyway, what I had done in the past, because nobody told me otherwise, was I kept whichever color I used the most in a row or around, I would keep in my right hand, and the other color I would keep in my left. Just because I'm more proficient with my right hand, so I figure the one that I'm going to use more often, I want in that hand. But Mary Jane said to keep whatever the pattern color is. And so, there's kind of the background, and then there's the color that's creating the motif and the design against the background. So whatever the background is, you want to keep in your right hand, and whatever the pattern is, you want to keep in your left, even if in that particular round or row, the pattern color appears less frequently than the background, which could happen. So I thought, oh, that's very interesting. And she explained the reason why, too. Those stitches will have different tension because of the different way they're constructed. And it'll be a slight thing. Like, you'd have to have a really trained eye to even see it, but it's also one of those things where with an untrained eye, somebody might just look at it and go, something's just off. You can't tell what it is, but you know it when you see it, that kind of thing. So anyway, that was good to know, and I put those that idea or that skill, strategy, tip in practice as I worked this cowl. So you will notice some harmonizing with the outfit that I'm currently wearing, because at least all but one of the colors are in this sweater. The white is the only one that's not. And actually, that brings me to something that I can tell you about this that would not be obvious. So the white was going to be in this sweater. It was, if you see the neckline here, kind of the top, where the dark purple is now, that was white. But very quickly, I saw that as I put the other colors on, this, maybe you can see it here, the white just didn't work with them. It did not want to play. It had its own idea. It showed up to the party with one concept of how things were going to go, and everybody else at the party said, no, that's not what this party's about. And they told him to take his, oatmeal-looking self and get out of here. But, first of all, this color works very well in the other sweater. It's perfect. Which just goes to show that, sometimes things don't work. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with, you don't have to force it, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But in this one, I think it does. I really, really do like the way that these play together. And I like, too, that, it just starts very dark, ends very bright, and gains brightness as it moves upward through the dark purple and that bright yellow green. And I haven't blocked it yet, so it's still a little stiff and uneven, and the sweater has been blocked, and I can tell you that this Highland base, it drapes really, really beautifully. It's very fluid, if that's the right word, flowy, breezy, billowy, that's probably the best word. This one is not very billowy just yet. The edges are kind of a mess looking, but I haven't blocked it. So I just finished it last night, and I wanted to show it to you today. So it's going to need a good 24 hours to dry after I soak it, because it's so thick. And I hope that it will be really nice to wear, because doggone it, it is cold in New York City right now. I will put up a picture right here so you can see the Hudson River freezing. It's not frozen solid, and it never really does freeze completely solid, but it gets these big chunks of ice, and I take the ferry back and forth, and the ferry just kind of cuts right through it, which is crazy. But anyway, but I will put this on for you, just so we can kind of see it together. So I cannot say that I am much of a cowl person. I don't have too many or wear too many, but this is where I'm hoping it will kind of like just fall down a little bit, so it will gather around the neck a little more naturally. Right now it feels a little stiff, like it's trying to figure out what it is, but oh my God, this is warm. My classroom right now is already really warm, so as soon as I put this on, I'm like, holy cow, I am hot with the sweater and this. Oh, but look at that! Isn't that kind of fun? The way that the geese. So by the way, it's called the Flying Geese Cowl. This is a quilt pattern. Oh, which by the way, I wanted to show you. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So every semester I take my students to see a show at the Lincoln Center. We've had a partnership with the Lincoln Center for 15, 16 years now. So it's a lot of shows, one per semester, 2 a year. That I take them to see. And this past semester we saw a new play called Blood Quilt. I don't know if it is still up or not. Probably it's not, but it was a new play by Katori Hall. And one of the prominent features, it's about sisters who are grieving the loss of their mother and kind of battling things out with each other. They're on the Georgia Sea Islands, and it's set in a Gullah Geechee community. Very, very interesting and fun, and harsh as well, but funny too. Anyway, they come together once a year, these sisters, and they make a quilt. And so one of the quilt patterns that came up in discussion in the play is the flying geese pattern, which is, oops, sorry about that, is this. These triangles are the geese, and they are flying. And one of the final products, project, that we had the students do after seeing the show was to make a quilt themselves, and they did it with paper, and they each one made their own. Can you see that? Yeah, made their own square and cut it in half, and it became part of the class quilt. This one needs to be cut off because the end is there, but anyway, this is all just done with art paper, and I've laminated them because I want to put them up around the room and bring a little color and life into the classroom. Because behind me what you see is very colorful, but my decor, well, my skills, they only extend so far. And it looks a little plain over there on the other side. But anyway, so I was familiar with it because of having seen that recently. So it was nice to see different areas of my life overlapping, different sets of knowledge fusing together. And yeah, so this is the Flying Geese Cowl by Mary Jane Mucklestone. And let me turn here. I feel like it looks very Elizabethan, don't you? Like this is kind of a, let me see if I can get it to sit just right. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm Sir Walter Raleigh, or I don't know who, but an Elizabethan gentleman. Yeah. What fun, what fun. And I'll show it to you again in a future episode. I'll be curious to see how it blocks. You can see up close, maybe, that the different sections of colors are kind of bunched together. So there's a little bit of tightness in my tension, but I'm hoping that as I stretch it out when it's wet blocked, that will start to disappear, and we will see what we have after that. Okay, so that was the first class that I took. Contemporary Stranded Colorwork with Mary Jane Mucklestone. The second class that I took, was a Pop Intarsia class, and that was with Dario Tubiana, Rosso Cardinale on Instagram. And if you're familiar with his designs, he does a lot of very, very cool, what's the word I'm looking for? Graphic designs, images that he's made with yarn and intarsia. They're stunning. They're really, really quite impressive. And intarsia is something that I've known about for a long time. I showed in the previous episode the sweater that my grandmother made that was intarsia. I just, to this point in time, I had not learned how to do it myself. So this was the time. I finally did. And I left my little swatch at home, I think, but it's okay, because you know what? It was an ugly little swatch. But it demonstrates the fact that I picked up some new skills, and I'm going to hold on to it for future reference. Anyway, I learned a lot about the process. I learned the pitfalls to look out for. My tension was way off. Maybe I will show it to you in the next episode. But yeah, it's humbling, to learn something new, especially when, I wore the Fall River vest, and every time I wear that, I get lots of compliments. So, it's good for the ego, good for the soul. But if you were to see this intarsia swatch, you'd be like, oh, did you just learn how to knit? Because that's kind of how it looks. Things are like scrunched together. Anyway, it's funny. And like I said, humbling, but good. So, excuse me again. Yeah, I'm very... I'm not going to say I'm eager to do an intarsia project, but I'm open to it when I see the right one. And maybe possibly one of Dario's. I believe he's got a really cool tiger project. But one of the things that he really likes to do is to embroider on his knitwork, and he does classes in that as well, which were all full. I couldn't take one of those, but that's something I might actually do before doing intarsia, is to embroider my knitwork. Seemed kind of fun. Okay, so what else to tell you about Vogue Knitting Live? There were the classes. Oh yeah, there's the yarns that I bought. I didn't buy a whole lot. I didn't spend that much money, given the amount that one could spend there. um, but I did buy this book, 60 Quick Knit Baby Essentials, and this is published by Cascade Yarns, I believe. Their name's on the front. Yeah, Cascade Yarns. So anyway, I picked this up, and the reason is that I have two colleagues who are having babies next month, and I was like, I got caught empty-handed, and we're doing a staff baby shower tomorrow, so I've got to get this done. So let me show you here. I decided I'm doing it's called the Just Right Ribbed Booties. There's the picture of said booties. And here are, the two finished ones that I have just made yesterday. Ta-da! Aren't they cute? And I just did a crochet chain to make the lace there. The little tie looks a little bit of a mess. But this is yarn called Merino 5 from Crystal Palace Yarns. And I picked this up at a store called Yarn Diva in New Jersey. It's been many, many, many years ago. So this yarn, I first got it to make a baby blanket for my nephew Dexter. Dexter is now 13 years old. So I got it before that. But I didn't finish it. It was a cabled blanket, and it took me forever, and I didn't finish it before he was born. So then it was going to go to my next niece, but it wasn't ready. So the next niece, but it wasn't ready. So the next niece, but it still wasn't ready. So then the next nephew was the recipient of that blanket, but it took me a couple of years to get that done. I was not as speedy with my knits as I am today. And it was the first time I'd ever done cables, and they just, they take a while, especially when you're learning how to do it. But anyway, all this is to say that I was shopping at Yarn Diva many, many moons ago, and I don't even know if it's still there. I haven't been back in that way for a while. But if it is, check them out. But the yarn itself is very pretty. It's very buoyant. It's a superwash, good for baby stuff. These are, chewy little booties. They're probably a little big for a newborn, but only a little bit. So another 2 or 3 months, and I think they'll be just right. Anyway, they look like this when they're done. I've finished another one today, but I still have to seam it together. So you can that's what it will look like when it's together. And then this, of course, flips down, and I need to make the lace, but that's what it looks like. Doesn't it look like underwear? When you pull it apart like that. I was sitting there looking at this like, oh, that no longer looks like a baby booty. That looks kind of vulgar. But fold it all up, and you got a baby booty. So anyway, we'll see if I can get one more of these done today. I guess I got to get off of this episode and get this posted. And then get back to knitting. It took me about an hour and a half, a solid hour and a half, to do just one. So definitely there's the possibility that I will get it done today, and I'm going to have to. Okay, so like I said, that book was very timely. That came from Vogue Knitting Live, and the only yarns that I bought were these from Blue Heron Farm, which is in Vermont, Grand Isle, Vermont, it says, to be exact. And I've got a sweater quantity here. I'm just going to pull one of them out. So I really, there's so many choices. The first day that I went into the marketplace, I didn't buy a thing. I just looked. And then I slept on it. And then when I woke up, I thought, what I want is that natural-looking yarn that I saw at Blue Heron. It's kind of showing up here, but not entirely. It's a natural brown, but they've dyed some blue on top of it, but it's so slight that you barely notice it. But it's there. I wonder if it shows better on a different skein. Let's see. Oh. Oh, actually it does. So yeah, you can see the blue in there a bit more. But mostly it's natural with just a hint of blue. And it's, I don't know, it's got a nice squeezability to it. Is that the word? Anyway. Yeah, I got a sweater's quantity of this, and I want to design something with it. And I'm thinking I'm going to go through my different stitch dictionaries and just find kind of a simple pattern and do it through the whole thing with a raglan sleeve. Maybe a basket weave pattern, maybe a waffle pattern, something like that. Something that's not too complex, but something that's complex enough to take this yarn and create a fabric that has a lot of texture to it. I haven't blocked it yet. I haven't even unwound it and worked with it yet, but I can tell it's going to bloom in a great way and just become so soft. So I'm really, really excited to get to know this yarn. Blue Heron is not a vendor or farm that I was familiar with before, but I love their stuff, and I will tell you more about them as I begin to work with it. So that is still to come. But before all that, as I said, I have some exciting travel coming up. So my partner and I, we are going to be going on a trip to Iceland, and I've never been. It's going to be a quick trip. It's not a very long getaway, but I'll give you more of the details in the days to come, or, well, probably after we're there. But obviously, if you're a knitter and you are going to Iceland, then you have to make a Lopapeza sweater, obviously, and you've got to do it with Icelandic yarn, right? So I sent out for some Let Lopi yarn, and I have begun this piece. This is the bottom of it, but isn't that gorgeous? It looks like icebergs floating, illuminated by a moon at night. Ugh, I love this design, and I can't wait for you to see what it looks like up top. I spent many hours looking through every Lopapeza pattern that could find out there. And this one is called, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's spelled Jon, like the name John, which is my brother's name, actually. Hello, John. But there's a accent over the O, and I don't know what that does to the pronunciation in Icelandic, but it looks in English like John. I'm sure it's something like Jön. But anyway, that's the name of the pattern. And you're going to be seeing a lot of it in the days to come. It's a little, it's there's so much kinetic energy in this yarn as I'm working with it. You can like feel the bounce with every time you let me show you here. I put this away for a few days because I've had these other things to work on, but yeah, when I just kind of knit it up and pull it off, there's just a little bit of a dunk, dunk. And it feels so different from anything else that I've worked with. It's a bit of a scratchy yarn, I have to say, but I knit up a swatch and I blocked it, and I mean, yeah, it's well, like the sweater, it's billowy. It's light and fluffy and moves, drapes. So I'm anticipating this is going to end up being a very comfortable sweater, although right now it feels very natural, let's say. But I mean that in the best possible way. I'm going to just keep doing this for a minute while I talk. Because once I picked it up, it was kind of fun, and now I don't want to stop, even though I have a booty to make. But now, before I go, I will show you so much more about this in the days to come once it's finished. Like I said, it is made with Let Lopi yarn from Eastex, one of the main, if not the main, yarn company from Iceland, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, I ordered it from yarn.com, from Webs, based in Boston or Massachusetts anyway. And yeah, that's it for that. Sorry, now I'm distracted. I'll put it away. My bad. Although as I look over at my bag, I do realize there was one other thing that I wanted to show you from Vogue Knitting Live. And that was this. I got a tote bag. I got to catch up with Eva from the Scottish Yarn Festival. And just as Mary Jane Mucklestone was the designer of the Fall River Vest, my particular version of it was made with yarn from the Scottish Yarn Festival. And, sorry, the reason the strand is coming out here is because this is where this bad boy is being stored. So let me just put him back in there and get him out of the way, and then I can hold the bag up without so much distraction. Okay, so, yeah. Anyway, I got to cross paths with Eva again and see her after a year and a half. Saw her at Rhinebeck 2 years ago. And big fan of her yarn. It's beautiful stuff. And I guess that's something I didn't mention was just the sheer number of people that I got to meet while I was at Vogue Knitting Live. So I'll put some pictures up here and just kind of talk through them. But there were the folks that I see every year at Rhinebeck, like Irina and Miguel, who's here in New York, and I see him from time to time around here as well. Shamika, Cairo, all some more or less local folks. But then I also got to cross paths again with Amy Palko, also from Scotland, visiting here with her mother, who, if you watch Amy's podcast, The Meaningful Stitch, her mom has featured several times, and there's at least one episode, maybe more. I haven't seen all of them, but there's at least one where she's visiting her parents in France, and they've got a very lovely home there. So anyway, it was fun to have met her mother online and to see her in real person, get to sit and chat with them. I also met Merit Butzer from Switzerland, and she's the person who organizes and runs the Swiss Yarn Festival. So now, of course, I'm thinking maybe I might be able to pull off going to that. We'll see. I don't know. See what we can make happen. But it's the beginning of April in a town. You fly into Zurich. It's not in Zurich, but it's near to Zurich. So anyway, who else did I get to meet? Liz from Trey Liz, whose podcast I began watching because Ava from the Scottish Yarn Festival suggested it. A while back, I asked all of you which podcasts you watch in other languages, and she does hers in a couple of languages, but French is one of them. And so I started to watch her in French and got to know her a little bit, and was just, as I said before, when you go to VKL, you can just see people you've seen online and go, oh, I know you, and strike up conversation, because that's what happened. I wasn't expecting to see her. We didn't make any arrangements, but there she was. So, and then we got to have a lot of quality time chatting together. She, by the way, Liz is going to be working with Rowan Tree Travel on a trip to India in 2026. So if you are interested in a knitting trip to India, you should look that up. I'll put a link in the bottom notes too. Thinking about that as well. I'm always thinking about travel. It doesn't mean I'm going to do all of these things, but I'm thinking about it. Who else? I posted a reel the other day with all the pictures that I took. It wasn't all the people that I met, but it was all the pictures that I took with people. There were more that I met than that, but gosh. Well, I'm going to post some pictures here, and if I forget to mention them, I'm so sorry, but it was a wonderful time. There's so many talented people out there who've become friends, and I'm kind of inspired and in awe of them, and yeah, I just leave experiences like this really, really motivated to make more, create more, design more, knit more, and have fun with all of it. So I hope you do too. I hope that this podcast gives you a little bit of that, and that, your 2025 is off to a creative start. So let me know in the comments what things you're working on. I always forget to say this, but of course, like and subscribe if you are enjoying the podcast, and share it too. Let your friends know. And please do come back next time because, like I said, I'm going to talk the entire episode about the 2 scarves that I designed. And I've been thinking about that episode a lot because it's, well, like I said, there's a lot of meaning in the designs, and I want to share that with you. I think it'll be a very personal episode. So come back. I'll see you then. Happy knitting, everybody.